Everything changed asterisk, asterisk without permission, asterisk, asterisk, and that is what makes this moment so dangerous, so sacred, so impossible. Something happened to you recently that has never been recorded in spiritual history the way it unfolded now. A silent shift occurred inside your soul, not with thunder or prophecy, but with a quiet certainty that rewired reality itself. You didn't collapse. You didn't beg. You didn't surrender your integrity to survive. Instead, something ancient inside you stood upright while the world tried to bend you. That alone sent a shockwave far beyond the physical realm. Energies that have existed since before time paused, because a soul in human form did something it was never expected to do at this stage. You didn't choose fear. You didn't choose corruption. You didn't trade truth for comfort. And the instant you didn't, something irreversible activated. This wasn't a feeling. This wasn't imagination. This was a cosmic anomaly. A being incarnated in flesh, refusing distortion at a moment when distortion was statistically guaranteed. That kind of resistance hasn't happened in ages. The system expected you to fracture, to compromise, to fall into the same pattern as everyone else before you. Instead, you held a line you weren't even consciously aware you were holding. That line crossed dimensions. That line marked you. That line announced that a soul not native to this world had remembered itself under pressure. And once that happens, there is no undoing it. The universe does not ignore such events. History does not repeat after them. And the reason your heart feels heavier and clearer at the same time is because the moment has already passed, and everything after it must now reorganize around what you unknowingly triggered. What makes what happened to you so impossible is not just asterisk that asterisk it happened, but asterisk asterisk when asterisk asterisk it happened in the greater cosmic timeline. There are eras in spiritual history when higher origin souls are allowed to intervene directly, and eras when they are meant to remain dormant, observers locked behind human limitation. You are living in a compression cycle, a phase where realms are sealed tighter than ever before, where interference from beyond is restricted, filtered, and delayed. In these periods, souls with origins beyond Earth are expected to forget. Memory is suppressed. Power is diluted. Awareness is anesthetized. That is how the system maintains balance. That is how chaos is prevented. And yet, during one of the most restricted phases, something surfaced through you without permission. Not summoned, not activated by ritual, not unlocked by training. It emerged spontaneously through moral coherence alone. That is what breaks precedent. In ancient cycles, awakenings required temples, bloodlines, initiations, celestial alignments. Now, none of that was present. No teachers, no chance, no external validation. Just a human life placed under pressure and a soul responding from a level it should not have access to yet. That response should have been statistically impossible. Records across dimensions show that when higher origin souls incarnate during sealed epochs, they fracture, dissociate, or conform. They lose the signal. You didn't. Instead, you stabilized it. You didn't remember through visions. You remembered through asterisk choice asterisk. That is the rarest method of activation. It bypasses hierarchy. It bypasses permission. It bypasses delay. It forces the universe to acknowledge that consciousness has evolved past its old safeguards. That is why this moment echoes so loudly beyond Earth. It suggests that a new class of incarnation has arrived, souls capable of anchoring higher awareness without destabilizing reality, souls whose integrity functions as a bridge rather than a weapon, souls whose presence alone recalibrates probability fields and environments never meant to host them, which is why attention immediately shifted toward you across layers that do not normally respond to individual human actions and began adjusting around your frequency as if accommodating an anomaly that cannot be removed and must therefore be understood. What unlocked this wasn't a chance or destiny reaching down. It was something you chose when no one was watching. Recently, You stood at a moral crossroads that looked insignificant on the surface, something others would have justified, dismissed, or rationalized without hesitation. You were given an option to benefit yourself at the expense of truth, to protect comfort by allowing distortion, to remain silent where silence would have kept you safe. Nothing dramatic, nothing cinematic, just a quiet moment where the easier path was clearly marked. And you felt the pull toward it. You felt how simple it would have been to step slightly out of alignment and still be praised, still be accepted, still be rewarded by the system. But something inside you resisted, not loudly, not arrogantly, but firmly. You didn't do the smart thing. You did the right thing. And in doing so, you violated an assumption the world makes about human behavior: that integrity collapses under pressure when there is no consequence. That decision acted like a signal flare. It told the universe that your ethics were not learned, not imposed, not dependent on surveillance or reward. They were intrinsic, ancient, pre-human. That is how higher origin souls reveal themselves, not through power, but through refusal. Refusal to exploit, refusal to betray, refusal to numb themselves for survival. That moment felt small to you because your soul is accustomed to operating at that level. But to the systems observing probability and consciousness development, it was massive. It confirmed that the empathy you carry, the homesickness you feel for a place you cannot name, the sense of being misaligned with the world's incentives, all of it comes from a deeper orientation. You are aligned to a code that predates Earth, and when that code was tested in real conditions, it held. That is why the shift felt immediate afterward, why something seemed to close behind you and open ahead of you simultaneously. Because once a soul proves its origin through choice, it cannot be categorized as dormant again. Once that choice was made, observation intensified, not in a way you could see, not with shadows or voices, but through pressure, through synchronicities tightening, through moments where it felt like life itself leaned closer. You may have noticed subtle interruptions, plans delayed for no logical reason, conversations cutting deeper than expected, patterns repeating until you couldn't ignore them. That wasn't coincidence. That was surveillance. When a soul demonstrates coherence beyond its assigned limits, attention follows automatically. Both dark systems that feed on distortion and higher intelligences that preserve balance register the anomaly at the same time. The darker forces do not monitor out of hatred, but out of calculation. They seek leverage. They test for cracks. They look for ego, resentment, hunger for power, anything that can be used to pull a higher origin soul downward and neutralize its influence. And they watched you closely, because your frequency doesn't announce itself loudly. It hides in kindness. It hides in restraint. It hides in the way you walk away when winning would cost your integrity. At the same time, divine observers, those aligned with preservation rather than extraction, are also watching, measuring not what you claim to be, but how you behaved when no reward followed, monitoring how you treated people who could give you nothing, tracking how you responded to injustice when speaking up would isolate you. This dual observation created tension around your life, a sense of being pressed from multiple directions at once. You may have felt more tired than usual, more emotionally raw, more aware of people's motives. That's because your field was being scanned repeatedly, tested for instability. And each time, instead of collapsing, you stabilized further. You didn't harden. You didn't become cruel. You didn't turn manipulative. That confused the darker observers, because higher origin souls are supposed to either dominate or withdraw under scrutiny. You did neither. You stayed present. You stayed ethical. You stayed human. And that made you unpredictable in a way that no corrupted system can tolerate, because a being that cannot be tempted, threatened, or distracted becomes impossible to control and must be classified differently within the hierarchy of influence. After that scrutiny began, the tests didn't stop, they multiplied, stacking quietly into your daily life. You were placed in situations, where honesty would cost you approval, where compassion would slow you down, where walking away would look like weakness. Someone may have misjudged you publicly, and you had the opportunity to correct them harshly, to humiliate them the way others do, but you chose restraint. Another time, you were offered proximity to power, status, or advantage that required you to overlook something you knew was wrong, and you declined without announcing it, without making yourself a martyr. You may have been pushed into environments where gossip, manipulation, or exploitation were normalized, where playing along would have made things easier, yet your body resisted before your mind even finished rationalizing. You felt it as discomfort, as a heaviness in your chest, as an inner refusal that wouldn't negotiate. There were moments you could have numbed yourself, escaped through distraction, hardened your heart just enough to survive, and no one would have blamed you. But again and again, you didn't. You stayed soft where the world trains people to become sharp. You stayed fair where bending rules is celebrated. You stayed truthful when silence would have protected you. Each of these moments looked ordinary on the outside, but together they formed a pattern that only rare souls can maintain under sustained pressure. You weren't performing virtue. You weren't seeking purity. You were simply unable to betray your own frequency. And that is what made these tests meaningful. They weren't about proving goodness. They were about consistency. Many can act with integrity once. Very few can do it repeatedly when it isolates them, delays them, costs them, and offers no visible reward. Yet you did, instinctively, almost without drama, as if your nervous system itself was calibrated to a different standard. That is when the observers stopped asking whether you were awakened and began determining what category of being could sustain that level of alignment inside a system designed to erode it. That pattern triggered a reclassification. Not an emotional reaction, not praise, but a cold, precise assessment carried out by intelligences that do not deal in flattery. You are no longer viewed as a developing soul or a passive participant in Earth's cycle. You are flagged as a rare variable one that alters environments simply by existing within them. In higher frameworks, rarity is not about talent or intelligence. It is about resistance to corruption. And you demonstrated something that unsettles both dark hierarchies and divine structures alike. You cannot be easily turned. That makes you dangerous in the most constructive way. Dangerous to false authority. Dangerous to systems that rely on apathy. Dangerous to narratives that survive only because people comply unconsciously. You don't need to rebel to threaten them. Your refusal to internalize distortion does that automatically. This is why you've often been misunderstood, subtly opposed, or underestimated. Systems respond defensively to beings they cannot predict. Higher beings recognize that you do not amplify chaos, yet you destabilize it. You do not seek control, yet you remove it from those who abuse it. That combination is exceptionally rare. Most powerful entities either dominate or destroy. You do neither. You neutralize through coherence. That is why the classification marked you as both high value and high risk, not because you intend harm, but because your presence accelerates truth faster than most structures can adapt. You are not loud. You do not recruit. You do not demand recognition. Yet people around you feel compelled to reflect, to question themselves, to either rise or withdraw. This effect is not learned behavior. It is a byproduct of your origin. Beings who observe consciousness evolution noted that you function like a stabilizing anomaly, one that cannot be assimilated without transforming the environment first. And environments rarely volunteer to transform. That is why attention around you became more deliberate, more focused, less experimental. You were no longer being tested to see if you would fall. You were being measured to see how much reality could bend around you before it had to change. That shift did not go unnoticed at the highest level. What you experienced next wasn't intervention, but witnessing. A stillness gathered around the moment your classification changed, as if layers of existence paused to observe without interfering. This is how divine awareness operates. not with interruption, but with attention so complete it alters probability. In that stillness, the intelligences you might call God, Source, or the original consciousness became aware not of your thoughts, but of your alignment. Not of what you wanted, but of what you refused to become. Archangelic forces, principles of order, guardians of coherence, turned their focus toward your trajectory, not because you asked for protection, but because your frequency matched theirs closely enough to be legible. You were not elevated. You were recognized. There is a difference. Elevation is given. Recognition is remembered. They observed how your empathy did not weaken under pressure, how your humility did not collapse into self-erasure, how your moral center stayed intact without becoming rigid or cruel. That balance is exceptionally rare. Most souls polarize under strain. You didn't. You remained integrated. To divine witnesses that signaled readiness not for power, but for responsibility. They saw that your homesickness for a place beyond Earth was not escapism, but orientation. That you were not rejecting humanity, but protecting something sacred within it. In that witnessing, no words were spoken, no commands issued. Instead, a resonance formed, a quiet acknowledgement that you were operating from an origin, consistent with ancient guardians rather than recent incarnations. The observation itself carried weight. Being seen at that level compresses timelines, clarifies intent, and removes certain obstacles without spectacle. You may have felt it as a calm after tension, a sense that something invisible had settled into place. That was not reassurance. That was confirmation. A recognition that your presence here is not accidental, not premature, and not unprotected, but unfolding under direct awareness from forces that intervene only when integrity proves stable enough to hold what comes next. From that witnessing came a decree not spoken in language, not delivered as command, but activated as law. When a soul demonstrates alignment without coercion, the universe responds not with reward, but with access. Something that had remained dormant within you was released from containment, not amplified, not dramatized, but authorized. Identity permissions shifted, constraints loosened. Pathways that were previously sealed to protect the system from instability opened, because you proved stability first. This is how true activation works. Power is not added. Restriction is removed. The universe does not give you something new. It stops blocking what was already yours. In that moment, your trajectory recalibrated. Events that once stalled began to move. Resistance that felt external lost coherence. You may have noticed decisions becoming clearer, tolerances shrinking, intuition sharpening without effort. That is not confidence. That is alignment taking command. The decree did not elevate you above others. It locked you more deeply into yourself. You were permitted to operate from origin rather than adaptation. This activation did not come with protection from hardship, but with protection from distortion. You can still struggle, still feel, still face complexity, but you will no longer be able to betray your core without immediate internal consequence. The universe enforces coherence once it authorizes it. This is why pretending feels heavier now, why compromise tastes bitter, why your nervous system reacts faster to misalignment than before. That is the decree at work. You are no longer buffered by ignorance. You are no longer allowed to drift. Your life will not tolerate false timelines. Doors that lead away from your purpose will close quickly, sometimes painfully, not as punishment, but as correction. At the same time, paths aligned with your true function will open with minimal resistance, not because they are easy, but because they are necessary. The universe has acknowledged that you can carry what is required without abusing it. And once that acknowledgement is made, reality reorganizes to support the function that was just unlocked. What was unlocked now demands clarity, because ambiguity can no longer protect you. The truth of what you are is not symbolic, not metaphorical, not something to be interpreted away for comfort. Your soul is ancient, but not in the way time is counted here. It did not evolve through Earth's cycles first. It arrived already formed, already coherent, already carrying a function. You are what could be called a celestial warrior, though not one forged for violence or conquest. Your strength is not destructive. It is corrective. You are built to move through distorted environments without absorbing their poison, to stand inside chaos without becoming it, to hold compassion without surrendering discernment. That is why your empathy feels heavier than most people's. It is why you sense undercurrents in rooms before words are spoken. It is why you've always felt slightly out of phase with the world, as if you arrived early or late to a story already in motion. You didn't incarnate to learn who you are. You incarnated to remember it under pressure. Your identity is not centered on dominance, purity, or ascension. It is centered on guardianship. You protect something subtle but essential, coherence itself. Wherever you go, you carry a stabilizing field that makes lies uncomfortable and truth unavoidable. This is why people either feel safe with you or defensive around you, often without knowing why. You do not impose values. Your presence reveals them. This identity was hidden for your protection, because to know it too early would have invited ego or fear. Now it surfaces not as a title, but as an orientation you can no longer deny. You are not here to escape the world or rule it. You are here to stand within it without losing yourself to model what integrity looks like when it is embodied rather than preached, to operate quietly as a reminder of what humanity is capable of when guided by something older and wiser than its current systems. With that identity acknowledged, function follows naturally. You are not here to convince, convert, or confront. Your mission does not require volume or dominance. It requires presence. You are meant to anchor integrity in environments where it has thinned, to bring compassion into systems that have normalized extraction, to remind others of their own moral center without triggering resistance. This is why you are often placed in ordinary roles that feel beneath your inner depth, surrounded by people who don't seem to question the structures you quietly see through. You are not misplaced. You are positioned. Your task is to live in alignment so consistently that it becomes undeniable, to act with fairness where shortcuts are expected, to hold empathy without becoming naive, to speak truth when silence would preserve comfort. You are here to demonstrate that consciousness beyond Earth can inhabit a human life without escaping it. That is the experiment you volunteered for. Not transcendence, but integration. Not isolation, but embodiment. Your homesickness is not a desire to leave. It is a compass reminding you of the frequency you are meant to bring here. When you honor that compass, you anchor something ancient into the present moment. This mission is subtle by design, because subtlety bypasses defense. You are not meant to shatter systems. You are meant to outgrow them until they cannot contain you, and must either evolve or fall away. That is why your path feels solitary at times. That is why recognition often comes late or sideways. You are working at a level where immediate validation would interfere with function. Your success is not measured by visibility, but by resonance. Each time you choose coherence over convenience, something in the collective field stabilizes. You may never see the full impact, but it accumulates. This is not a burden placed upon you. It is an agreement you already honored long before this life began. And every time you feel that quiet inner yes, when acting from truth, you are fulfilling it without needing permission or applause. As you stay aligned with that mission, material reality begins responding in ways that feel almost too precise to be coincidence. Not sudden wealth dropped from the sky, not spectacle, but support that arrives exactly where strain once lived. Resources appear when you stop chasing them. Opportunities open when you stop forcing outcomes. People enter your life who recognize your frequency without needing explanation, and those who drain or distort quietly fall away without confrontation. This is not luck. It is logistics. When a soul operates from origin, the universe reallocates energy to reduce friction. You may notice that problems resolve faster now, not because you avoid them, but because they no longer hook into you. Money begins to flow more cleanly when you refuse to compromise for it. Work aligns when you choose purpose over approval. Your needs are met in ways that preserve your integrity, because integrity has become the condition for support. Even challenges start carrying a different quality, less chaotic, more instructive, as if they are designed to refine rather than break you. This is divine backing expressed through matter. It does not remove effort, but it removes sabotage. It does not guarantee ease, but it guarantees relevance. You are being supplied not to indulge, but to sustain your function. The more you trust your inner knowing, the more efficiently life organizes around you. Delays shorten. Detours reveal meaning. Losses clarify direction. This alignment is subtle, enough that others may not notice anything unusual, yet you feel it deeply as a sense of being carried rather than pushed. Support shows up through timing, through chance meetings, through intuition guiding you away from what would have drained you. Even rest becomes restorative instead of escapist. The universe is not rewarding you for being good. It is investing in you because you have proven reliable. Reliable souls receive provision because they use what they are given without distortion, without excess, without forgetting why it was entrusted to them in the first place. Without trying to, you begin affecting others. Not through teaching, not through preaching, but through contrast. People notice that you move differently, that you respond instead of react, that you carry calm without passivity. Conversations around you shift. Truth surfaces unexpectedly. Others find themselves questioning behaviors they once justified, not because you challenged them, but because your presence made those behaviors feel heavier. This is the ripple you create. It does not announce itself. It spreads quietly, person to person, moment to moment. Someone sees you choose honesty when a lie would have smoothed things over, and something in them stirs. Someone watches you walk away from drama without needing to be right, and they reconsider their own attachments. You give people permission to remember themselves simply by refusing to forget who you are. This is how awakening spreads when it is grounded rather than theatrical. Your empathy becomes contagious, not because it is sentimental, but because it is paired with boundaries. People feel safe around you because you do not need them to be anything. At the same time, they feel seen in a way that challenges them to rise. Some will lean into that discomfort and grow. Others will distance themselves. Both reactions are signs that the field is working. You are not meant to carry everyone with you. You are meant to create conditions where choice becomes visible. Even brief interactions with you can recalibrate someone's internal compass, sometimes long after you have left their life. You may never know who you've affected or how deeply. That is intentional. This work is not about attribution. It is about transmission. By living in alignment, you emit a signal that resonates with those ready to hear it and passes harmlessly through those who are not. That selectivity keeps the process gentle, voluntary, and sustainable, allowing awakening to occur without force or fracture. When you zoom out far enough, the pattern becomes unmistakable. You are not an isolated anomaly. Across the world, thousands of others are experiencing the same internal activation, the same tightening of integrity, the same refusal to participate in distortion. They come from different cultures, backgrounds, belief systems, and walks of life, yet the signal is identical. They have always felt out of place, as if Earth was not hostile, but unfinished, as if they arrived with instructions that were partially erased at birth. Like you, they carry a quiet homesickness for a realm they cannot name, and like you, they have learned to function here without ever fully belonging to its incentives. These souls are not organized by institutions or ideologies. They find each other through resonance, through recognition in the eyes, through the ease of silence, through the shared exhaustion of navigating systems that reward the opposite of what feels right. As this network activates, something subtle but irreversible begins to happen. Old structures lose momentum. Narratives that relied on unconscious compliance start to unravel, not because of rebellion, but because enough people stop feeding them. This global network does not march. It does not demand. It withdraws its energy from what no longer aligns and reinvests it in what does. That alone reshapes reality. You may encounter these others briefly or remain connected only through this shared frequency, but their existence matters. It means you are supported, mirrored, and reinforced beyond your immediate surroundings. It means when you feel tired or isolated, someone elsewhere is holding the same line. Together, without coordination, you are anchoring a new baseline for human consciousness, one where empathy and integrity are not exceptional, but normal. This is why your activation is happening now and not earlier. The network has reached critical mass. Individual awakenings no longer destabilize the whole. They strengthen it. You are part of a distributed system designed to evolve quietly, sustainably, and from the inside out, ensuring that what replaces the old is not just different, but better aligned with what humanity can become. Stay with this moment, because awareness only integrates when it is acknowledged. If something in you recognized itself while listening, mark it. Write **777** in the comments, not as superstition, but as signal and indication that the frequency reached its intended recipient. Subscribe, not for content, but for continuity, because messages like this arrive in sequence and land differently when heard at the right stage. Share this only if you feel a quiet pull to do so, not to convince anyone, but to allow the signal to reach those already listening beneath the noise. And stay until the end of each transmission, because timing matters more than volume, and what resonates now may not have existed for you even weeks ago. You are not being recruited. You are being reminded. Nothing here adds to you. It simply removes what was never yours to carry. The path ahead will continue to clarify itself, as long as you remain honest with what you feel and disciplined with what you choose. Let this be a point of reference you return to, not as belief, but as orientation. You are already moving. You are already supported. And the more you live from what you know, rather than what you've been told, the easier it becomes for reality to meet you there.